Hello and welcome back to the Virtual Winter Show. My name is Paul Davis.
And I'm Joe Longbone. Hello.
It's always lovely. We've got some people piling in already, which is always lovely to see.
We didn't do the Welsh intro. We're going to have to do that tomorrow.
Yeah, that's tomorrow. I've got to practice. Okay. Let us know that you're watching live. It's always lovely to see your comments coming through. Joel's going to pick an emoji in a second. So
yeah. Well, I think the emoji should be animal related, given we've got Gary on. So any sort of animal related emoji in the comments would be great, just so that we know you're there. So that'd be great. We had musical instruments earlier with Pete, which was great, and we had an umbrella with Sam. So getting a good collection of emojis going on in the comments.
Yes, and nice for you to mention that we had Sam and Pete on before. So we had a wonderful day today. So we had Sam Smith from Sigma this morning, and then this afternoon we had Pete, who was doing it was an interview of a video that we sort of covered last Friday as well, which was lovely, going through his music photography. So that was wonderful to catch up with Pete, and such a nice guy as well. So really nice spending time with him. So and you can see all the information about all of our guest speakers, whether they've been or coming up on our website, which is cambrianphoto.co.uk.
It's good. I've just seen the comments coming in. We've got a few evening guys. Hi guys, just got in from work. We've got some eagle emojis and a hedgehog emoji from Val, which is nice. Great. We've also got some Welsh from Gwynfor. Noswaitha Hogia. I think that is good evening, lads, or boys. Yeah. So and Alan says hi, lads. So there we go. Oh, and we've got a cheeky little monkey at the bottom as well at the moment, I think. So there we go. I've got some great animal emojis coming through. So
I think I'm going to have to ask somebody to write down what the interview would be in Welsh, so we can read it out, just so we get the phonetics on it properly.
Yeah,
so
the pronunciation correct.
Yeah, rather than just maybe
Dave
doing
in the lab.
Yeah. So that'll be very interesting.
That'll be tomorrow morning's job.
Yeah, no, definitely. So on to this evening, and it's an absolute pleasure, honour, all of the above, to introduce a good friend for myself and Joel's, Gary. Hello, Gary.
Good evening.
You seem surprised then.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about somebody else.
Oh, are you trying to say we're not your friends?
No, I'm not used to welcomes like that. Not for you, anyway.
Well, thank you for coming, and thank you for everything that you've done in the past with us as well. Definitely. So it's not only the first time that you've been on with us. We've had you several times. So thank you very much for your support. It's always welcome, and we love hearing from you.
No, it's a pleasure. Should have saved it till the end,
yeah.
So you've got the same opinion at the end.
Yeah. Just before we start your talk, Gary, I noticed that you got rather excited today about some pictures that you managed to actually achieve.
Yeah, probably a bit too excited, really. For most people, I wouldn't do it. But yeah, it's one particular bird that I've been trying to photograph for. Oh God, it must be getting on for 3. I said 2 years. It must be getting on for 3 years, but. It's a buzzard, and anyone that's tried photographing buzzards, they're not the easiest birds to photograph. If anything, it just reminded me more that I need to go mirrorless, because silent shooting would no doubt help. Every time this bird hears a shutter, it just flies. But yeah, cracked it today. Had half an hour of fun. 7 hours yesterday and 6 hours this morning. 13 hours freezing cold, half an hour action. It was, really worth it. You don't look convinced, but it was really worth it.
Dedicated.
I know. That is a long time to wait, but I suppose that's the beauty of photography, isn't it?
I think
sometimes you have to wait a long time.
I was about 500 shots this morning, and in 2 and a bit years, I've probably got about 3 shots of this one bird.
Wow.
So, it was well worth it.
That's
hopefully,
brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
the Z2 will work out for you, and then you can.
Yeah, I hope so. One thing I did find out was that my 850 shoots silent with live view, which I didn't know until I started playing around.
That's cool.
There we go.
Live view, silent shooting. There you
go. Nice. How was the focus in live view though?
It's okay because it's just touch focus.
Sure.
Cool. I mean, once the bird was quite happy, I just went to conventional shooting. But to begin with, it was cool to do it completely silent.
Yeah.
But yeah, all good.
So
yeah, I'm riding the crest of the wave this evening.
Yeah, good. It's good. Right, shall we get started?
Aye, whenever you're ready.
Right. So
we'll hand you over to Gary, everyone.
Yeah, and then Paul and I will drop off. We'll see you in a bit.
Okay, brilliant. I'm sure you'll tell me if it works or doesn't work, but I'll share the screen and off we go. Brilliant. Well, thank you guys very much again. Real pleasure to be with you again. And I thought for this evening we'd maybe go, as we go into the sort of depths of winter, and it was mighty cold this morning photographing, I thought we'd maybe go somewhere a bit more exotic for this presentation, hence the giraffe and the African scene. I've entitled the talk "A Wildlife Photographer's Dream," and for me this is one of the dream trips that I do as a guide, and hopefully by the end of it you'll have bought into the ideology behind it. But it is a pretty special thing I'm going to talk about this evening. Anyone that doesn't know me, and I've seen a few familiar faces popping up on the chat screen, but I am based in North Wales, and hence why I spend a lot of my time down at Cambrian, annoying the hell out of the guys in there. Well, not so much recently, but it's great to be able to be going back down there again. I am North Wales based, but if I'm really honest, up until lockdown, I didn't really spend a lot of time in North Wales, and I'll talk more about lockdown in a moment. But I use Nikon cameras, and I'm not going to get into the whole big debate about cameras. Nikon works for me, and I've seen quite a few guys talking this week. I was listening to Mike Inkley earlier in the week in the show, and everybody's got different views on their own camera systems, and I'm not saying by any means that Nikon is the best. It is the best that works for me, and I guess that's what everybody says about what they favour. So whilst there's some amazing camera systems out there that may well be better than Nikon, I've always used Nikon, and it does the job for me, and hopefully going forward into the mirrorless series, it'll carry on doing the job. I am an outdoor sort of person, and it's always a bizarre thing that I talk about to camera clubs, especially, that for me, the passion is wildlife, and the photography sort of doesn't come second, but it sort of slots in behind it. I've been an avid conservationist and wildlife lover since I was a youngster. So for me, the thrill is the wildlife, and hence what we've just been talking about. Spent 13 hours the last 2 days photographing a buzzard, which after 2 years I finally cracked. So it's things like that really do excite me. So I draw my inspiration really from the natural world, and the people that are in it, the conservationists that are in it, people like Chris Packham and David Attenborough that everybody loves, and Yolo Williams, who's a good friend that I do a bit of work with as well. So that's where I draw my inspiration. I am really lucky. The places that I get to go to, sadly not this year. It's been one of the weirdest and most difficult years, not just for us, but for everybody. But it has really impacted my work this year. So it's been a tricky old year, but taking this year out the equation, it takes me to some really beautiful places, both in this country and abroad. And I love Scotland. I love the wildness and the ruggedness of the Cairngorms. And I also love going abroad. I spend a lot of time in Scandinavia, over in Sweden, and what we're going to talk about tonight, going across to Africa. And I've lots of different species that I'm particularly enthused with, but for me, my real passion lies with birds of prey, and two birds in particular that you can see on the screen are ospreys and little owls that I spend a lot of time photographing. I said it's been a tricky old year for everybody, this one. I have lots planned this year. With Yolo, we did a talk right at the beginning of the year in Yolo, and the plan this year was to take it on the road. We were going to do a lot of the capital cities, and all that's sadly been shelved. And hopefully one day when we can do mass gatherings again, we can take it back on the road. But for me, lockdown's been brilliant because it's it's grounded me more than anything. So I've spent a lot of time just discovering what's on the doorstep, and I'm embarrassed, saddened to say that, I had a badger set 10-minute walk from the house that I never even knew was there, because I've spent so much time away from home doing different things that I've not appreciated what was on the doorstep. So I spent a lot of the summer photographing this family of badgers that were a 10-minute walk from the house, which was absolutely brilliant fun. Spent a lot of time down at the local lake photographing swans, and a brilliant little project to follow the parents at the nest right through to when the cygnets were born. Sad postscript to this story, actually. Those little ones died a couple of days later. They were taken by a mink, which is, it's nature, but a bit of a sad end. And I popped this in, actually. This is hot off the press. Literally came straight out of the camera this afternoon. This is the buzzard that I was working on this morning. So these are the images taken this morning. And these sort of are the sort of end result of a painful few years trying to photograph this individual bird. And anyone that's tried photographing buzzards will appreciate what I'm saying. They are the most cautious, superstitious birds to photograph. And the nearest I've got is maybe 2 or 3 images over the years. And to see it this morning for half an hour feeding was fantastic. New approach, different ideas, and it came to fruition this morning. What I can say is that winter's definitely come, because it's been freezing the last 2 mornings, getting into the hide at 6 in the morning. But I'm going to talk about warmer climes, and I'm going to talk about a place in South Africa called Zimanga, which is a private game reserve, and it's a place that I take groups of clients out to photograph South African wildlife. It's a fantastic place because it's a place that is very much geared towards photographers, and it's very different from a traditional game safari. So I thought for the show, when I was asked if I'd do something, that it might appeal, because it's very much geared towards photographers and not just safari tourists, if you will. So hopefully it'll give you a flavour of what's available over there. I'm not here to sell Zimanga. I'm not affiliated to Zimanga. I've not got any workshop planned to Zimanga at the moment, because I can't organise them at the moment. It's not to say we won't be going back in the future, but it won't be anytime soon, I don't think. But it's an amazing place. It's situated in South Africa, like I said. So you fly into Durban, and then it's a 3-4 hour drive further north into an area called Kwazulu Natal, again, which is sort of out in the South African bush. By game reserve standards in Africa, it's nowhere near in comparison to the big ones like Kruger or the Serengeti or the Masai Mara. It's relatively small. It's only 70 square kilometres of bushland, forests, rolling hills, and it's bisected by the Makuzi River that runs right through the middle of it. Species-wise, you get all the stuff that you would expect going to an African place and photographing African safari animals. So, things like lion, elephant, leopard, cheetah, all the usual ones. It's an area, like lots of areas, not just in Africa, throughout the world, that was decimated by poaching, and lots of areas in Africa still are getting decimated by poaching. But this area in South Africa by 1998 was pretty much devoid of the big game that you would expect to see in the bush over there. It was bought and transformed by the current owners. They extended and enlarged the reserve to its now 70 square kilometres. It was fenced, which was the important thing. And nobody likes to think of animals being fenced in, but over 70 square kilometres, it's as good as being out in the wild, but with the security that poachers can't actually get in to harm the animals. So they've thrived, and there's now 400 plus species of birds, and the mammals has extended to over 80 species of mammals, taking in things like giraffe, Cape buffalo, rhino, waterbuck, wildebeest. So bringing in lots of the wildlife that was devoid, having been poached in years gone by. That's the actual game reserve itself. This is the camp right in the middle of the game reserve, and from a distance it doesn't look too much. This is taken with 500mm lens when we were out in the safari vehicle, so it's probably about half a mile away through the heat haze. Doesn't look anything particularly thrilling. It's very, very much a conservation orientated business now. It is a business. They're there to make money, but a lot of the money is ploughed back into conservation. So everything they do over there, the basis of it all is conservation. But the real big difference with this place, and the appeal for it for me and lots of other photographers, is the way that they lend the place and the design of the place to anyone going there with a camera. So it's very much a sort of split experience that you get there, and hopefully through the presentation you'll see both sides of it. And the big beauty of Zimanga and the appeal of it is that you can go there and sit in a hide. So you're not going to spend the week driving around in a safari vehicle, which is great. That's fantastic, and you'll get some great stuff doing that. But a lot of the time you get to sit in some real special hides, and we'll talk through some of those as we go through the video. There's nothing better than going away and having a bit of luxury, and again, this is the beauty of it, that the game lodge and the accommodation is as good as you'll find anywhere, I think. And when you've been out from 3 in the morning on an early game drive, and you're back sort of hot, sweaty and dusty, it's nothing better than kicking back and relaxing with a nice breakfast. When it's getting warm, maybe having a dip in the pool. You're so well looked after. I guess it's probably very similar to lots of game lodges throughout Africa, that the staff are absolutely awesome. They just can't do enough for you. And this is a group, I think last year, the year before, and yeah, really well looked after. So this is coming in for breakfast after we've been out first thing in the morning. Super relaxed. You know, I mean, you don't spend all your time out photographing. Anyone that's been across there will understand what I'm saying. That middle of the day, it gets extremely hot. So you're sort of out first thing in the morning doing a game drive or in a hide, and you're back sort of mid-morning and breakfast, and then it's sort of chill for a few hours before you go out late in the afternoon to do the evening activities. But in terms of relaxation, it's an amazing place with an amazing view, and you can see it is pretty much right in the middle of the bush, and some spectacular views from when you're sat in the lounge area or having a float around in the pool. Not the biggest of pools, you know. You're not going to find Duncan Goodhue. I'm showing my age now. I can't think of any recent swimmers sort of whizzing past in the pool. That's a couple of kicks and you're down the other end. But when you're hot, sweaty, and you just want to cool off, it's lovely. Trust me, having been in there. And there you go. The views from a pool get any better than that. And I've sat in that pool and watched zebra and giraffes wandering past. Accommodation, again, really, they do look after you. This is in one of the lodges. You sort of have your own lodge or you share. And yeah, I need to include this really, because you can have a bath or a shower with a view. And again, I've been stood in the shower and something's wandered past game-wise, I might add. And yeah, brilliant to see an elephant or a giraffe wandering past when you're having a bath. And you've got some fantastic staff over there as well, and this is the real beauty, that you go over there and you get a dedicated ranger for your duration. And when I go, I ask for this guy called Jono. He's a guy with years and years of experience, and they've got a real knack of putting you in the right place when you've got 70 square kilometers of bush to find wildlife in. And there's a lot of wildlife, but there's a lot of bush out there as well, and they have this real knack of being able to find it. Couple of the animals, namely the cheetahs, have got tags in them, very similar to what your pets would have in, and microchips, and that they can find them with the scanners. But they're primarily there because they're precious animals, and they need to know where they are, and that makes it a bit easier trying to find them. Right, I've got a bit of video coming up now, and it's probably about 6 or 7 minutes long, but hopefully it'll give you a real good flavour of the different aspects of Zimanga and the different hides. And then once the video is finished, I'll maybe talk through in a bit more detail of the different hides and the types of images that you can get from these hides. But the video, I think, is really good. It was put together by the staff at Zimanga, and it really does tell the story of what you can see from these places. So if the technology works, we should be able to run the video, hopefully. Okay, special place, special animals, and I'm just going to hopefully now just give you some insight into the types of images that you as photographers or us as photographers going over there can take from these special places, these hides that are set up. And I get quite excited going out there as much as seeing the sort of big game as seeing lots of the birds. And being an avid bird photographer, more than anything, I get quite excited about the different exotic species. And I said right at the beginning, there's over 400 species of birds within the reserve of Zimanga. And I just got a small snapshot, I think, just to give you an idea of what you can see and photograph over there. And some real special ones, such as this bird on the screen, which is a lilac-breasted roller. And this is one that comes down to drink at the water holes that you saw on the video. And these magnificent birds, these are called red-billed oxpeckers, and pretty unique and pretty special birds, because they serve a purpose to lots of the bigger mammals, as well as looking after themselves. You'll find them a lot on lots of the big mammals, the big antelope and the rhino and the zebras and the giraffes, and they're just picking bugs and ticks off the animals. So it sort of serves a purpose for the mammals by keeping them tick free, but also as a valuable food source for the birds. But they're pretty cool looking birds in their own right. And again, I get really excited about little birds, and all the clients in the hide are looking at the giraffes and zebras, and I'm in the corner photographing the little birds down by the water. And these are yellow-fronted canaries, and again, not a bird that you see in the UK, and pretty special to see them sort of sat by the water. But beautiful coloured birds, and birds which you don't see very often over here, like these turtle doves that over there are pretty common. And again, you get quite excited as a bird photographer over there that you're photographing a bird that you don't see very often at all in the UK nowadays, unfortunately. And very similar to our own swallows, these are lesser striped swallows that are beautiful, stunning birds, again, that just come down to the water holes to drink. So beautiful, smaller birds, and bigger birds of prey. As an avid bird of prey photographer, it's fantastic to see different birds of prey. And these are got a brilliant name. These are called pale chanting goshawks. And I only wish that our European northern goshawk was as amenable as these guys, because these things are sat on posts and trees and branches everywhere you go, and they're not bothered by the camera. Whereas our goshawks, you just can't get near them or find them. And these guys, really comical things. These are called southern yellow-billed hornbills, and pretty much wherever you go, you'll see these kicking around in the dirt, looking for bugs and ticks and stuff. And they're really comical birds to photograph. And you'll see some shots from a hide later on that when we were photographing vultures and these things were running around. Really comical things. And lots of kingfishers, different types of kingfishers. So anyone that likes photographing our British kingfisher, once you get out there, these are sort of kingfishers on steroids. They're sort of double the size of our kingfisher. This is a brown hooded kingfisher. And the day I photographed this, the group were photographing a lion on the other side of the safari vehicle. And I was sat around the back, sort of shouted there was a kingfisher in the tree, and nobody diverted their cameras from the lion. And but it's a pretty cool bird that you wouldn't see very often. But ironic thing was, it was miles away from water, so what it was doing in the bush, I had no idea at all. But fantastic array of birds, and big birds of prey as well. This is a tawny eagle, and saw these flying around for the first time I went there, and thought they were golden eagles, because they are golden eagle size and very similar to our own golden eagles in size and stature, but very subtle differences. But they're beautiful birds, really proud, elegant looking birds of prey. And in the early morning light, that's the beauty of going out first thing in the morning. You're sort of leaving the lodge in the dark and going out into the bush, and as that sun starts rising above the horizon, that you get this beautiful golden light. And it really does make it a real privilege to be there photographing, because the air is really clear, and you've got this beautiful golden light of the sun rising, lighting up the birds. And then these birds, again, I'm going to talk just for a minute or two about vultures. And it's not a bird when you go into Africa that springs to mind straight away, because they get a real bad press. But for me, they're really cool birds. These are white-backed vultures, which are pretty prevalent in this area of South Africa. They are a bird, along with all the other species of vultures, that are in massive decline throughout Africa, and for no other reason, again, sadly, because of poaching. And talking to the guys out there, I mean, the reserve where we go is pretty secure, and the birds are pretty okay. But in large parts of Africa, lots of vultures are being poisoned to death, and it's an indirect result of the ivory trade, when elephants and rhinos are killed for for their ivory, the first thing that finds the dead carcasses are the vultures, and it's a sure sign to the authorities, to the rangers, that a kill's just happened because the vultures start circling. So more and more poachers are now lacing carcasses with poison to kill off vultures, so that they don't give away where dead elephants and dead rhinos are. So it's a massive shame. So lots of work being done to protect vultures at the moment, and I know we're doing a bird of prey workshop at Gauntlet Birds of Prey, and hopefully in January, third time lucky, hopefully. And those guys there do a lot of work with vulture conservation. They've got some beautiful birds at the Bird of Prey Centre that the group will obviously get to photograph, but a lot of the money that they make at the centre gets ploughed back into this wild vulture conservation trust over in Africa, that they go out there and help as much as they can to protect these beautiful birds. And they are beautiful birds. They're a bird that's designed for what it does. It sticks its head in some not very nice places to get its food, and but they're designed for it. So they've no feathers sort of from the neck upwards, because it does go into some nasty, bloody places, but it's easily cleaned once it comes out. But they are beautiful, stunning birds in their own right. And this is a specialist hide. It was mentioned in the video. It's called Scavenger Hill. And it's a hide that's actually sunk into the ground. So you sort of enter at floor level and drop down beneath ground level, and you sort of pop up a window, and you're looking pretty much down the dirt. And all that's out there is a carcass from the reserve. So whatever's been found on the reserve is put out in front of the hide, and it brings the vultures in. And they're magnificent birds to photograph when they're coming in. And I sort of joke and sort of say, well, lots of people ask me how to photograph birds in flight, and if you can't photograph vultures in flight, it's probably time to give up. They've a 2 meter plus wingspan. You can see them coming a mile off. You cannot help but see them in the viewfinder, and they are pretty straightforward to photograph, but they give you some amazing shots coming in. Again, they're coming in the hide's position with the rising sun behind you, so you get beautiful lighting on the birds as they're flying in, and you can get some stunning shots of them coming in over the hills. And then you get the melee starting to form as more and more vultures come in. The action really does start to hot up, and yeah, holy hell, breaks out pretty quickly as these things start scrapping over food. And like I say, you're down at ground level. So as a photographer, I'm always saying you need to get down to the subject. You want to be on the subject's level to photograph them. And when you're underground and looking out right down the dirt, you're right on the level. You've got an insight right into the action. And when these things kick off, they do kick off. It's beaks everywhere, claws are out, and no prisoners are taken, because it's sort of every bird for himself, and they want the food. And you can get some real cool action shots. And it's not just a snapshot. You know, you could be in there maybe 2-3 hours with these birds coming in from all directions. And but you get some great opportunities, and these are all taken with it's a Nikon 200 to 400 lens. So no big lens, no 500mm lens with the birds a miles away. They're probably, I don't know, maybe 15-20 meters in front of you. You're shooting through glass, as you do in all the hides in Zimanga, but the quality of this glass in the hides is just second to none, and you wouldn't even know it was there, and it makes absolutely no difference. But what it does do, it gives you that sound barrier between you and the wildlife, and that they can't really hear the camera. They can't see it because it's reflective. But as you can see, the images are pin sharp, crystal clear, so the glass has absolutely no impact on the images. But you get some cool shots, and learning all the time, like I do with all my wildlife photography, that through the photography you start to learn more, and you can see the bird there in the centre's got like a second eyelid that protects its eye. So when these things start poking and prodding each other with their beaks and claws, they've got this sort of second eyelid that pops over to protect their eyes. But yeah, when they go for it, they really do go for it. So you know where you are, you've got a real insight into the action, and you can get some really cool action shots. Well, they're cool birds, and you get all sorts of things going on these. This is two sort of running straight towards the hide, one flying in, so that they'll sort of fly in, beaks open, talons out, and straight into the scrap. And the food's in the middle of there somewhere. And you've probably seen it on lots of the wildlife documentaries where, the lion will make a kill and within minutes a couple of vultures will arrive, and within minutes there's 15, 20 vultures there, and they're really, really going for it. And that's the scenario that you get playing out in front of you. And again, makes for some really, really cool shots. And 9 times out of 10 the weather's pretty much the same every morning. You've got these beautiful clear mornings with beautiful golden sunlight, and it's coming in over your shoulder, so you can get to really light the birds up and get some beautiful clear shots with some beautiful golden light. You can see by all the images that I like vultures. Not a lot of people like vultures, and hopefully I'll swing a bit of opinion. They've got a very bad reputation, but they are pretty beautiful birds in their own right. One thing I did learn though was all this scrapping that goes on there. Lots of feathers get pulled out, and one day I sort of gathered a few up to be told pretty much straight away to drop them by the rangers and just sort of go and disinfect your hands, because they carry some real nasties. So I didn't need telling twice, and I couldn't add any vulture feathers to my collection, sadly. Again, you get some real good action fighting shots. So this is a sort of submissive bird lying back and being trampled over by the one behind him. And then when it's all over and the food's gone, you get these sort of chilled out shots. So you get big groups of them developing, and birds that were kicking 7 bells out of each other 5 minutes ago, all of a sudden are best buddies, and they're all sort of stood round together. And then vultures are probably the ultimate scavengers, but there's also other scavengers, and it brings in the mammalian scavengers, such as these things, which are black-backed jackals. And I'm doing a lot of work at the moment, sort of right through lockdown. I've been doing it, and I'm carrying on doing it with our own foxes, with red foxes. And these are very, very similar to size-wise to our foxes, very similar in sort of stature. And these are really beautiful animals. And again, over there, they're not seen as a pest, but they are what they are. They're kicking around, scavenging, just trying to pick up bits and pieces, but they make great photographic subjects, especially when they start interacting with the vultures. And you've got to be impressed by an animal as small as our foxes that's taking on, maybe a group of 20, 30 vultures. And these guys are just in it to try and grab as many scraps as they can. And again, it gives you the great opportunity to get some real cool action shots. And because of the bright light, because of the really nice early morning light, you can get shutter speeds nice and high, and you can really start freezing the action. And whilst I've been in the hide, guests, I've got some really, really cool images of this interaction. One guest, Kevin Nash, had something in the papers this week, you may have seen, of some interaction between a vulture and a jackal. It was the judge's choice winner in one of the international competitions, and it was a fantastic shot taken in this very same hide, with this particular jackal interacting with the vultures. But fantastic opportunity to get some really, really cool shots of some really, really underrated birds. I really just do love vultures, and I've grown to love these little jackals as well. And you see them all over the bush. So this is a jackal taken from the safari vehicle in an area that had been sort of scorched with bushfire. But they're all over, and it's a meagre living, very similar to our foxes. They're just constantly looking for food. And then at the end of the day, when they've all had the food, they're stuffed, it's kick back and drop your belly over your belt and chill. Looks like my dad used to look like after Sunday lunch, kick back in the armchair, and they just sit and digest it all, and then they just fly off, and it's all done and dusted. But for a few hours, it gives you some amazing action. It's an amazing hide. It's called Scavenger Hill for obvious reasons, and yeah, it's definitely a highlight of the trip for sure. And then, like I said before, it's not all about hides. You do get the conventional safari vehicle drives, and this is the sort of typical vehicle. This is our vehicle that we use when we go over. Not a lot to obstruct you when you're photographing. Tend to keep it to small groups. So for that vehicle, we would have had four in it. I think yeah, there we go. So lots of room, unaided, unobstructed views, sort of 360 to photograph. And this is 3 of the guys as we were going down to the overnight hide, which I'll talk a bit more about shortly. But the safari vehicle's superb, loads of room for your gear, and great for photographing from. And I think it's a bit of a video of this actually, but oops, it doesn't play particularly well because it's off the mobile phone, but I'll give you an idea of what it's like to be out in the bush. I'll push that one. I keep meaning to take it out of the presentation because it is only mobile phone and it's not very good. Okay, onto a different type of animal, and this is an animal that you'll see pretty much all over, and I've included this really in the presentation for two reasons. And it's not probably one of the most spectacular animals that you'll see around the reserve, but I think they're pretty cool. These are warthogs, common warthog, and they're found right across Africa, whether it be grassland, savanna. They are related to our common pigs. They are a pig species, but very, very unlike pigs. And I've included them for two reasons. One, I think they're really cute. They're super photogenic, and you'll see a bit later on some real old warriors. And you'll see one a bit later on, probably a bit more unfortunate because he ended up as sort of lion food. But beautiful things, unique things that I just love photographing when you go over there. And again, this is in one of the hides, and because you're down at ground level, it's coming straight towards you. You get that beautiful personal insight straight in. And again, no big lenses. Whenever go over there, don't take big lenses. Say the biggest lens I took 200 to 400, and that's what I sort of recommend for most people. So you've no real issues having to travel with real big lenses. So lots of the typical zooms like the 100 to 150 to 600s, 200 to 500s, all brilliant lenses to take out there. The light's that good that you don't lose a lot. You get lots of the antelopes when you're out and about. So this is the waterbuck. Again, beautiful animals. You get some real cool sunsets as well. So at the end of the day, when you're out on your drive, you'll take in the sunset. And these are a big group of impala down by one of the lakes. Lots of zebra, which you would expect. These are, I'm checking my notes, make sure I'm right. These are called Birchall's zebra, plains, or commonly known as plain zebra. And again, you tend to see these right across the reserve, either singly or in bigger groups. But I just love photographing them in the bush, and these are taken sort of last thing at night as the sun's going down. Elephants right throughout the reserve, and again, it varies. Sometimes you go out on a drive and not see any elephants. As big as they are, they can hide themselves pretty well in the bush, and you're relying on the expertise of the rangers doing the tracking and working out where the elephants are. And the beauty of the rangers, though, if you've got any specific requests, they'll go and find them for you, or they do their level best to find them anyway. And everybody likes to see elephants. But stunning animals, and the beauty of Zimanga is they've all got their tusks. Unlike a lot of reserves where they have to saw the tusks off, or they just get killed for their tusks, because it's such a well protected reserve. All the elephants have got their tusks, and there's some real big tuskers on there as well. But beautiful to get up close to them as well. And that's the beauty of being in the safari vehicle. The wildlife is pretty chilled and pretty relaxed when you're in it, and you can get some really cool shots. This is we came across this guy one morning just grabbing some green leaves from the tree, but again, some beautiful early morning light coming through. Stunning animals, and again, really, really photogenic when you're up close with all that sort of textures in the skin. And again, giraffes all over the reserve. These are Southern African or Cape giraffes, which are sort of indigenous for the area in South Africa. But I really do enjoy photographing giraffes because you can try and compose different types of images. I mean, you can get lots of portrait shots, which are great, but they don't really say a lot when you just got all the giraffe in the image. But by positioning the safari vehicle, and that's the brilliant thing about it being a photography guided place, is that the guides themselves are photographers. John, in his own right, is a brilliant photographer, and they'll put you in the right positions to get the photographs that you want. So if there's a particular composition that you want, they'll try and get you in the spot, and whether it be sort of mixing with the other animals, or if you want to have a play around. So this particular occasion lended itself to a bit of black and white because it was so barren and an area that had been burnt by bushfires. So we played around and converted to black and white. And at sunset, and this is one of the safari, one of the game drive tracks, and with an elephant with a giraffe wandering up at sunset, and again right into sunset. Again, we can work with the guides to get the sort of iconic sunset shots. So once that sun goes down, find the giraffes and work up an image. And it doesn't always work, but some nights you can get lucky, find an animal at the right time, and you can make some different types of images. And lots of hippos in the lake. There's a couple of lakes within the reserve with good heads of hippos in there. And I was warned a long time ago about hippos, and it's very, very true. They are classed as one of the more dangerous animals in Africa. And having been stood by the lake and seen these dudes and what they get up to, I'd second it. And you do not want to get too close. On one occasion, I was dragged out by the back of a scruff of my neck by the guide because one of them was getting rather too close. And you don't appreciate how quickly they can move, even when they're in water. And the size of those teeth, you don't want to be anywhere near them. But you get great opportunities as the sun's going down. So this particular evening, we were sort of sat by the lake, just waiting for the sun to drop and slowly turning that water beautiful golden yellow. And then an animal that's suffered tremendously right throughout Africa via poaching is the rhino, to the point now where the black rhino is virtually extinct in most parts of Africa. This is the white rhino, and it's not in reference to its colour. It's the Afrikaans word white, which means wide, and another name for white rhino is square-lipped. So they've got really square, broad mouths, which you'll see in some of the images, whereas the black rhino's got a narrower, sort of tapered mouth, if you will. Sadly, over here in the reserve, because of the threat or the possibility of poachers getting in the reserve, they do remove the rhino horns. Such is the demand for this product throughout the world, and the lengths that poachers will go to try and get into reserves. They just don't take the chance, and that they remove the majority of the horns off the rhinos for that reason. That you don't want to see a rhino less it's horn, but you'd sooner see the rhino rather than it being poached and killed. So photographically, it doesn't work so well, but it's still great to see these magnificent beasts up so close that are sadly disappearing right throughout Africa. And this is a youngster. So that previous shot was its mother. They stay with the parents for quite a long time, and I say youngster. This is probably, I don't know, probably getting over 1/4 of a ton in weight. Quite a size, but they are beautiful animals. And again, being in the safari vehicle, you get really close, and the guides will put you in the prime spot to give you the shots that you want. So whether it be a nice close-up portrait shot or the earlier shots that you saw, trying to sort of show them in the environment. And again, mother and daughter. The daughter's still got all her horn, but as that grows, sadly it'll be removed. As you can see, her mum's had the majority of her horn taken away. And different day, different rhino. Good head of rhino on the reserve. I'm not sure exactly how many there are, but it's one animal that you don't really struggle to see. And again, this is first thing in the morning. The sun's coming up. And you can see that big wide mouth where they get their name from. So wide mouthed rhino, white rhino. But again, constantly repositioning the safari vehicle so you can get different types of shots. Great for composing different types of portrait shots, close-up shots. So again, you want to try and bring out the sort of texture in the animals, and nothing better when you're talking about texture than rhinos and elephants, because that beautiful leathery skin with the sort of highlights and the shadows really does work well. Again, these two, they're not normally that colour. These two have been rolling in the dirt, and it's a real rusty red sandy dirt. So yeah, different colouring. And again, lots of lions on the reserve. You saw in the video of them coming down to the waterhole, and they're not too difficult to find. Again, the rangers, I think there's 3 safari vehicles. I should have mentioned that right at the beginning. It's not one of these reserves where you go where there's 20 or 30 safari vehicles. So when you find a lion, you're going to be vying with position with 20 odd other vehicles to try and get close to it. There's only 3 vehicles on the reserve. At any one time, there's probably maximum of, I don't know, between 12 and 15 people actually staying within the lodge. So when you're out with the wildlife, you are pretty much out there on your own. And the three guides that run the three vehicles are constantly talking to each other. So when find lions, they'll radio it through, and we sort of hotfoot it across to find them ourselves. So yeah, good communication, and pretty much they can find the lions. And we found this particular male one day, just chilled under a tree. We wondered what he was up to, and he just made a fresh kill. And I mentioned it earlier on about warthogs, and sadly this warthog had paid with his life. And but it was fantastic to get the group up really close. We are probably 10 feet away. A bit disconcerting and a bit worrying sometimes when you sort of sat on the side of a safari vehicle with not a lot of protection, and sort of the king of the jungle right next to you, chomping away on some pork. And you trust me, you hear everything, all the crunching of the sinew and bone, but it brings it home. It's real, it's raw, it's what these animals do. It's nature in its rawest form. But again, because we've positioned the vehicle nicely, we're there on our own. We're there to take photographs as well as sort of marvel at what we're seeing. We can position it to get some really cool behavioural shots. And if nothing else, I learned that they eat them bum first. So he sort of chewed his backside off and worked his way up, which was a bit bizarre, but I don't suppose there's a lot of nutrition in the other end. But yeah, fantastic to watch. But evil stare. And again, most of these are shot at 200mm on the 200 to 400, so you're pretty close. But yeah, brilliant to see, and a great experience. And I think this particular day, the guy just picked it up and wandered off when he'd had enough posing for the cameras. And the one thing you can guarantee with lions is that when they're not feeding, they're normally sleeping. And again, it makes for some different types of shots. This is down on a riverbed, a dry riverbed, and we found this guy just chilling with a full stomach, and he was out for the count. But again, by just flipping the door open and dropping down to the floor of the vehicle, you're getting some shots right down on a sort of lion level, if you will. Again, because there's only a few of you on the vehicle, you're afforded all that space, and you've got the ability to do it because, you know, we're there to take photographs and compose the shots that we want to compose. And then, I mean, I must admit, I love photographing lions when I'm out there, but these are probably my favourite big cat. And especially over Zimanga at the moment, this is a pair of brothers, these cheetahs, that were born on the reserve, and they've bonded, they've stayed with each other, which happens a lot. When they leave the parents, they sometimes disperse, but sometimes they'll stay together. And these two brothers have stayed together, and we caught up with them on this particular trip quite a few times across the reserve. And they are fantastic to photograph. And the first time I took the guests out to photograph these, we pulled up next to the cheetahs, and the guy sort of said, "Do you want to get out?" And we all sort of looked at each other and thought, "Really?" And yeah, so all these images are taken from outside of the safari vehicle. And never in my wildest dreams thought we would be able to do it. But it was an amazing experience for not just myself, but for the group. And but it gave you an unobstructed view into the world of a cheetah from 15 feet away and closer at times. When a cheetah sort of gets up from rolling in the dirt and walks straight towards you and walks past you, it's thrilling and petrifying at the same time. But the guys are right on side beside you, and the instruction is you don't move, you stand still, and you're absolutely fine. But it gives you a great opportunity to immerse yourself into cheetah world and you know, get some really cool shots down at ground level. And this is just kneeling down with the cheetah coming past. And when they do relax and chill out, again, you can spend a lot of time getting some really nice tight shots. So all these were taken 200 to 400 and varying the focal length to sort of bring the whole animal in, or just getting some tight portrait shots. But beautiful animals. I mean, I photographed cheetahs in zoos and safari parks down the years, and always thought they were pretty cool. But when you see them out in the bush and you get some so close, you cannot help but fall in love. Amazing animals, beautiful eyes. So these are two males, and the bond is amazing to to watch. I mean, you can see how relaxed they are. I think it was 5 of us this morning, sort of sat in the dirt photographing them, and they were just completely relaxed and just getting on with their with life. And the bond between 2 brothers is just an amazing thing to see. To be able to see it, but never mind photograph it, was brilliant. And, but it makes for some real cool shots of a stunning animal. And then, you know, when they've had enough, they just up they get and wander off. And this is the 2 sat in the savannah grass, just looking out across the plain and probably eyeing up their next prey. But amazing animals, and probably a bit of mobile phone footage, I think. So just flipped the phone out of my pocket, and he was having a roll in the dirt, probably 10 feet in front of me. And there's a couple of guys, so you can see how close we get. So these are wild cheetahs. I mean, these aren't tame cheetahs by any means. It's just that they're tolerant. They're used to seeing safari vehicles, and we've got one of the safari guides sat behind us. But an amazing experience. Except everybody else was fine, except yours truly came home from this trip with a tick bite, and I was sick as a dog for a week or 2 when we got back. And I probably put it down to doing what Andrew's doing in the top image there, lying in the dirt. Something I'll be thinking about when I go next time. And then probably the highlight of the trip for me, and for lots of people that I take over there, is it's called the Umgodi overnight hide. It's probably the wrong pronunciation from an Englishman living in Wales, but Umgodi, I think it's called. It's an amazing experience, and I did this presentation a while back to a camera club, and one of the guys was completely bowled over because I sort of tried to explain what the hide was like, and you saw it right earlier on with the 3 guys in the safari vehicle with the giraffes behind them. That was the entrance to the hide. It's just a hole in the dirt with a brick wall around it, and you sort of go down this staircase, and you're going down a staircase into a different world. It's like I wouldn't say it's a first class hotel standard, but it's not far off it, underground. And so you're in a hide. I wish I'd taken some photographs to try and explain it, really, because you're underground. You've got a fully equipped bathroom, fully equipped kitchen, a bedroom, air conditioning, running water, and then you've got the hide itself. So you've got all this sort of in the background with a hide that looks out over a waterhole. So again, you're sort of photographing through glass, but you've got the water coming right up to the edge of the screen, level with your camera. And the distance from the sort of screen where you're photographing to the back edge where that zebra is probably about 10 feet. So it's not a mass, maybe a bit more, 10, 12 feet, if that. It's not a massive difference. And you go into this hide sort of mid-afternoon. So you've sort of taken down mid-afternoon that you saw the guys earlier on going in. And you're in this hide from sort of 3 in the afternoon, right through the evening, right through the night. And then you're picked up around about 7 o'clock the following morning. All your food is in there. So you order your food before you go down. And that's all taken down, is in the fridge there waiting for you. Like I say, there's microwaves and everything in there for you to prepare it. There's beds in there should you feel the need to sleep. Trust me, when you're in there, the last thing you want to do is sleep. You want to stay awake because you don't want to miss anything. And you're knowing that you've got the best part of the rest of the following day to catch up on your sleep before you back out again the following evening. But it's probably I've been in some brilliant photographic hides down the years photographing wildlife, but this without doubt is one of my favorites, and some of the images that you can achieve from it are amazing. And the real beauty is you do not need big lenses for it. All the images that you're going to see now from this side were taken with a 24 to 70mm lens and shot at varying focal lengths. So that the zebra that you can see in front shot at probably about 30, 35mm, something like that, if that, to get it all in. And this is a zebra coming to drink at the waterhole last thing in the afternoon, just as the sun's going down, and with a sort of back full of red-billed oxpeckers that we talked about earlier on. Again, as the sun starts to really go down, again, you get different types of animals coming in to drink. So this is a big antelope called a kudu, and nicely silhouetted against the sun going down in the background. Again, with sort of half a dozen oxpeckers on his neck. Probably one of my favourite images from all the time I've been over there. These are impala coming down to drink, and my original image was sort of cropped to take out that one on the left-hand side. And when I re-looked at the image, I brought it back in and called it the lookout. And as well as lots of the mammals that come and feed, such as the antelope and the zebra and the giraffe and what have you, predators come down to drink in these pools as well, like you saw in the video with the lions coming in. And I really don't know whether this guy was looking out, but I call this image the lookout. And impala are very much lion fodder, and I guess this guy was just keeping an eye out while the rest had a drink. Well, that's what it looks like anyway. And then you get the big guys coming in, and this is probably one of the most unnerving situations I've ever found myself in as a photographer, because these are Cape buffalo, and these come to drink at the waterhole. And these things weigh in excess of a ton. They are enormous. You don't realise how big these things are till one's staring down the lens of your camera 8 feet away from you drinking. And they are super cool things. And these tend to come in the dark to drink. Really, really close. So shot at 24mm. The pool is lit up, so once it goes dark, there's LED lighting on the top of the hide that lights the waterhole. So there's no need for flash, and there's sufficient lighting for you to get sufficient shutter speed to give you enough to be able to freeze the images. So these are shot at about 200th of a second. Not a massive ISO. I reckon I was probably shooting, I don't know, between 3,000 and 4,000. But an image in the dark, whatever camera you've got, doesn't tend to show noise too badly. So these came out really, really well. And looking at the back of all the guests' cameras, you'll see lots of images from all the guests of similar quality. Again, the glass makes absolutely no difference in the dark, but you get some really cool shots. So this is a headshot. This will have been shot at 70mm, bringing it right in to fill the frame, looking straight down the lens. You get some real cool reflection shots, as long as there's no breeze, which invariably there isn't in the bush. It's nice and still. So as they're coming in, you can sort of zoom out 24mm, just about get all the reflection in. You can really play around with the shadows and highlights. So this is one coming out the darkness and being hit by the light. Again, so that's bringing in, that's the moon behind it. It's bringing in the moon behind it. Again, just playing with those shadows and highlights. Again, you can sort of compose different types of shots. So a real sort of symmetrical portrait shot. There's one coming sort of out in the dark. And again, this is really what they're coming in to do, is to drink. Yes, we are. I think these were taken in October, which is very much in the dry season. So there's very little water out in the bush. So you get lots of animals coming in. Once the daytime temperatures cool off into the evening, they'll come in and drink. Again, another nice reflective shot. Again, I saw this image when you're trying to compose different types of images. I saw this image sort of developing in front of me, and the symmetry was just amazing, but I just could not get the flipping thing in focus. So it is nicely composed, but I kicked myself even today, a couple of years down the line, because the big one in the middle is just slightly soft, but it was a pretty cool composition though, because you could just see it developing right in front of me. But as you can say, variety of shots of these big guys, and I can't really explain. There's a bit of video I think a bit later on, which I'll pop on right at the end, maybe give you an idea of how big these are. But it's really does make the hairs on the back of your neck stand up when one of these just lifts his eyes to look at you when he's drinking so close. And you get some real cool experiences. So this is a hyena, obviously, something you don't see a lot of over there. From what I can gather, there's not a massive amount on the reserve. So this particular night, because we were not really told to expect hyena, and then this one came out the darkness. And this is a real beauty of the hide, because it's so dark. You don't really know what's coming. You know, you've got that area in front of you lit up around the water on the sort of bankside, but you don't really know what's out there in the darkness, and you hear all sorts of barks and whistles and whines. And then you get something like this coming out the darkness towards you. It's fantastic. And this is the dead of night. This is what I said a bit about earlier on. You really don't want to go to sleep, because you really don't know what you're going to miss. This guy was in and out within a couple of minutes. Had you been nodding off, you'd have probably missed it. But luckily, this particular night, I think all the group was awake and got some pretty cool shots of it. But again, amazing experience to be so close. And this hyena actually waded into the water, so he ended up maybe 3 or 4 feet in front of the window, just looking straight at us. But so cool to see them so close. And again, you know, there's very, very few places where you can get so close to truly wild African animals, taking aside zoos and safari parks. But yeah, beautiful animals again. And then the real thrill is obviously getting lions coming down. And sadly, the times I've been in that hide, I've never had a male lion come down yet. We've had lioness come down, but again, like I said, liken it to the hyena, but multiply it a few times with the experience of a lion appearing out of the gloom and the darkness, and then being picked up by the lights, and then just coming down and lapping water gently from the side. And again, photographed with that same one lens, 24-70, you know, that close. Amazing experience. You know, take aside the photographs that you get, it's just an amazing experience and amazing memories that you take away. And then at the end of the evening, the end of the night, it starts getting light, some sort of 4, half 4 in the morning when we went in October on this particular trip. And by sort of 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, you've got beautiful bright light, and you've got lots of the daytime visitors coming down, and you get the giraffes coming down first thing in the morning to drink. And that's a real challenge, because you've only got a 24-70 lens, and 24mm is too big a lot of the time to get a giraffe in that's stood right in front of you. So a giraffe stood 10 feet in front of you, all you're going to see really is his legs until he bends down. And it's a real education watching them actually bending down to drink. It's a long way to get a drink, and they have to position themselves really carefully, splay them front legs, and down they come. And you can see this guy's actually got an oxpecker working away on its neck. But again, a real unique, different insight to an animal's behaviour playing out feet in front of you, and you're able to photograph it with a beautiful backdrop of the bush behind it. And it's just phenomenal to see. The only downside with giraffes drinking is that when they lift their heads up, they've got lots of slobber and water coming out of their mouths that they flick all over the window. So you're frantically dropping the window quickly to get it clean before something turns up. But again, just zooming right in and bringing in all the detail. And you get lots of zebras coming down, and again, you can compose different types of shots. So you can go for the sort of wider shot with all the animals in, zoom in and maybe get a bit arty, starting to try and compose something a bit different. Impala coming down, again, a bit of symmetry and reflective work. And don't see a lot of wildebeest. It's not like places like the Serengeti or the Masai Mara, where you get the big wildebeest migrations, those vast herds of wildebeest. These are pretty more sporadic around the reserve. So it was pretty nice to see one coming down to drink. And again, cool to see that sort of interaction between them and the zebra. And again, a bit of mobile phone footage. So this is straight off the mobile phone, so maybe appreciate how close we are. This is just some zebra coming down to drink. Yeah, really nervous. I mean, you would be if you knew that there was potentially lions stalking at the back there. So you find most things that come down to drink are pretty twitchy and pretty nervous about what may be going on behind them. But you get this constant stream of animals coming in. So this is a wildebeest coming in with a lion, a zebra just coming in from the bush behind. You really don't know what's going to pop up next, but stunning animals. I've missed loads out as well. There's loads of other stuff that comes down. But obviously I can't throw everything in. This is I'm trying to think what we call it. Is it a kudu? I think it's a kudu, which is very similar to the silhouetted one you saw earlier on, but the male with the big horns, and a couple of oxpeckers hard at work. And then I think this is a bit of video. Yeah, so this was fantastic. This was one afternoon when we were into the hide after 3 o'clock, and a group of warthogs came down. Really hot day. Sort of 30, 35 degrees, and these things coming down to sort of cool off in the water hole. And this is literally feet in front of the glass. Oops, he says without playing it. Try again. There we go. But yeah, again, I mentioned it earlier on that they are really cool animals to photograph, and they're an animal that a lot of people disregard in Africa because there's bigger and better things to photograph. But I really love photographing these guys. They're really cool and really expressionful, and really you get real hard. We have sort of wiry warriors like this guy. He could really tell a few stories and a few scrapes and mishaps and with lions and what have you. But yeah, real old warrior, that one. Yeah, sort of lives up to the name of warthog for sure. And again, this is the bit of video that I referred to later on. So I think this is late evening, just before dark, and one of the buffalo came down, and I think this is videoed at 70mm, and then it pulls out to 24mm. So I'll give you an idea of how close they are to you. Amazing animals. I mean, you don't appreciate how big they are until you sort of crouch down in a little high looking up at one. And I've got even more admiration for lion because they take these things down and feed on them. So incredible. And then probably, I'd love to know if Gordon's watching tonight. I've got a guest called Gordon Davidson that's been on lots of stuff with me, and he was in the hide with me this particular evening. And this is a leopard, and I'll put the video on in a sec. It's not one of the best bits of video you'll ever see, but leopards don't actively visit the hide very often. And this particular evening, we were in there, and the guide was in the worst seat. The guests, the clients, the paying clients were in the best seats, and Gordon was in the #1 seat that night. And he got some amazing shots of this leopard that had come down to drink. And for me, I didn't really photograph it. I just put the camera onto video and record it. It'd come down to have a drink. I was blocked from my view by the side of the hide. But an amazing experience for the guys that were in that evening to see an animal that's not seen very often on the reserve, and it came down to drink in the dead of night. It's not the best bit of video in the world because of where I was sat, but it was an absolute thrill to see it so close. But the guys that were in with me that night, they got some amazing shots. And I know Gordon's got a beautiful canvas on his wall, a big old canvas of that thing full length, drinking that night. So that's the presentation. It's an amazing place. It really is. And like I said right at the beginning, I'm not here to sell it by any means. I will be going back there at some point in the future. If anybody is interested, please do let me know. I've got a long list. Well, not a long list. I've got a list of people that want to go back there. So, by all means, do get in touch. But I hope it's been enjoyable. I hope it's been something different on a cold winter evening to take you to warmer climes. Just a quick brief mention of something I've got coming up in a couple of weeks on the 19th. Talking about my favourite bird ospreys. It's a presentation that I did earlier in the year in sort of early lockdown, and I've been asked by a few people that couldn't see it, could I redo it? And I've added some more images in it from a sort of truncated osprey season this year, which was sort of a few weeks in July, but at least we got to see them at some point. But there's some real special images that I took on a couple of trips in July that I've added into this particular presentation. So I'm doing it on the 19th. All it means is either contacting me through social media or through my email address at the bottom of the screen, and I'll send you the details. All of my other workshops are on my website, so it's gjwp.co.uk. They are chopping and changing a lot at the moment as things change. Fingers crossed. Watching the news today with the news that a vaccine is being released. It's the virus we want to get rid of. Hopefully really, really hopeful that everything will slowly start to drift back to some sort of normality in 2021, and we can kick off a lot of these workshops that I've really wanted to do this year, because there's lots of special ones there. So they're on the website if you're interested. But thank you ever so much again for listening, and I hope Paul and Joel are there.
Hello.
Yay.
Paul, stop pressing the buttons.
Sorry.
There we go. Oh, that was fantastic. Thank you, Gary. Really, really interesting. And those pictures are incredible, aren't they? Paul, do you reckon we should organise a workshop over there with Cambrian so we can get paid to go over and take pictures of those animals?
That sounds amazing. Yeah.
My guide.
Well, you'd be our guide, obviously, Gary.
Yeah.
It is an amazing place. It's a special place for sure. I mean, it comes at a cost, obviously, as all these things do, but it's once in a lifetime, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it certainly will be.
We had lots of comments saying hello and wow and thumbs up and things like that. Oh, mentioning price, Tina is asking, would love an idea of how much this trip would cost, please, Gary.
I've got a ballpark figure from the last one. I think it's between 2,500 and 3,000, which, again, I don't, for what it is, it's exceptional value in terms of the accommodation and you know, transfers and all that sort of stuff. It's yeah, you know, you'd pay similar to for other things out there and not get as much. So,
I honestly thought you were going to say a lot more than actually, to be honest.
True.
I mean,
Considering
we can make it more, Paul. We can go for longer. Quite happy with that. But no, we're trying to be realistic to give enough time there to really experience it, but you know, obviously make it affordable as well.
Sure. Makes sense. Johnny says another great presentation and great to see more about the whole experience as well as the photos. Hopefully, would love to join you again for a trip like that. So hopefully that's another person that will come along with you. Michael says awesome and inspiring. Cheers, Gary. Steve says absolutely amazing, Gary. The cheetahs blew me away. Oh, and Tina says, put my name down, please. There we go. You've got a sale.
I said right at the beginning, I wasn't here as a pitch, honestly.
I don't think you have to. You wouldn't need to try and sell it.
Evening, it was just nice to show something a bit different, you know.
No, those pictures sell themselves, though, don't they?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the video is nice. You know, it sort of shows what you can see there, but to see the images that you can actually get sort of sells it for me.
100%.
Yeah, I don't know anything else.
I found it really interesting that you weren't obsessed with the big stuff either, that you liked the detail and the smaller animals and the animals that get less love because they're not quite as wow as the other ones. So
I think so, yeah. You need to go there with a real open mind and not get sucked into the trap of maybe what a lot of people do, that they want to see the big five and it's all about the big five. There's just so much else to see. And yeah, I did get ripped quite a bit, you know, when they're photographing lions and elephants and I'm photographing canaries. It's but it's taken in the whole experience.
Definitely. That's cool. Gareth Morn says, looks like an amazing experience. So, you're doing some workshops with Gareth this year and next year as well.
Yeah, where are we at? We've got one in January. It's on mine and Gareth's website. Cool. We have got 8 places available, 5 are sold, so we've got 3 places, and that's it's everything pretty much. Wildlife, landscape, and dark sky astro stuff over a weekend on Anglesey. So
yeah, that's very cool.
3 places.
On that, we've got a workshop with Gareth on the 12th of December on Anglesey. We tried to make sure we could get one in before the end of the year, just so we could at least do one workshop this year and not feel like we completely failed to do workshops this year. So have a look on our website or our Eventbrite for more information on that. But yeah, I think a day with you two is going to be a great experience for people who've signed up for that. It's going to have a great wealth of experience and different subject matter. So.
Absolutely, I'm open to learn a lot off Gareth, to be honest. Being a complete novice at landscapes and astro, I'll probably learn more than most, I think.
Yeah. Well, he's definitely a great teacher, that's for sure. So, but unless anybody has any other questions, feel free to pop any more in here, and we'll let Gary know, and he can get back to you on those. But hopefully, we'll be able to have some more sessions with you in the future, Gary, because we know our customers love getting to hear from you and seeing your awesome pictures. So.
No, it's an absolute pleasure, and you know I love doing it. So more than happy. Looking forward to the rest of the show. There's been some fantastic presentations so far, so I know there's some real good ones to come yet. So yeah, looking forward.
There certainly is. Yeah, there certainly is.
Great. Thank you again, and we'll just pop you off the screen, and then we'll catch up with you once the broadcast is finished.
Magic. Thanks a lot, guys.
Cheers.
Thanks,
Bye.
Harry. Absolutely amazing. Loved it.
Truly, yeah, definitely.
Once again, another inspiring talk. So,
for sure.
Really, just and yeah, nice sunny pictures when it's not so sunny outside. So
yeah, exactly.
It's really really nice to see. So, yeah, not a full day tomorrow, but we have a session at 3 o'clock, which is
Helen from
Helen,
with Think Tank and Mindshift bags. She's going to go through some of the range just to show you some of the great quality and useful bags that they've got. We love the Mindshift and Think Tank bags. And then we've got Steve Gosling, landscape photographer extraordinaire, and he'll be going through a presentation that's Steve's work is great. He's a really nice bloke, really easy to chat to, and so that's going to be a great evening, as all of our evenings have been, to be honest. And I think we've been really really lucky to get the people that we've had lined up at our show, both the ones we've already seen and heard from, and the ones we've got lined up all the way through to Saturday. So we've got those on our website, so feel free to go on our homepage and click that massive banner on the front, and then you can go through and see them all, and you can actually catch up on them as well, can't you, Paul?
You certainly can. So any of the live videos that we've done in the past, you're able to go onto our website, that Joel said, which is cambrianphoto.co.uk, and we've got the whole list of all the speakers that have attended the show. You can rewatch any of the videos on Facebook and YouTube, and set reminders for any of the live videos coming up.
Yeah, and the great benefit is it's all free, and everybody loves free. So. Excellent. I guess we'll say goodbye, and we'll see you all at 3 p.m. tomorrow.
See you tomorrow, everyone. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.